Hello YouTube and welcome back to the channel here today. Today we're going to be tackling another episode here of Monogatari Off and Monster Season, of course, continuing here with episode 4. Yeah, we're back gamers for another week. How cool's that? Very excited to be here continuing from last week. And yeah, a lot happened last week. Hopefully, again, in theory, this video shouldn't be as long. It really shouldn't. In theory. I've been saying that a lot lately, but yeah, I just keep yapping. I can't stop. As much as I want to, I can't stop. And maybe that's a testament to the quality of the show, is that, hey, it makes me want to talk, which is good. And me trying to remember shit from way back in the day as well. Anyway, I digress, except I don't really digress because I go over here and I talk about how I forgot something pretty important from last week's video. So I continue to try to remember things that happened in the past that are relevant now, I guess. This here kind of goes into that as well. But let's continue here, or let's start with Neilu's comment here. Okay, so Sodachi's whole spiel about not taking someone at face value and how what they say might be different from what they actually want heavily relates to her relationship with Araragi back from middle school, where she wanted Araragi to tell his parents about her home situation but didn't say so at all. In fact, she told him to not tell anybody about their meetings. Yeah, true, okay. The line "there is no relationship sadder than that" really hits hard when you realize that she is saying that in reference to her relationship to Araragi, right? So this does a number of things. One, it recontextualizes the conversation between Nadeko's parents and what they actually might want for Nadeko and what they're actually saying to her with words, right? So they may say, hey, go get a job. What they actually want is Nadeko to experience life again, right? To go out into the world, whether that be school, whether that be a job, whether that be anything else, and talk to people. Bounce ideas off another person. Don't be a shut-in. That kind of thing, right? Everybody in the narrative, at some level, wants to draw Nadeko out of the funk that she's in into the real world. That does not mean being flirty Nadeko. That does not mean being social butterfly and betraying your passions or anything else like that. It talks to a balance, I think, of, hey, I'm going to not just be watered down, nobody who cares girl, and I'm not going to be a shut-in that completely focuses on manga, right? Now, it becomes interesting through a couple of lenses. One is Nishio Sin. He's a very interesting man, I think. He talks to a lot of this from experience. If he's relating to a mangaka, kind of, he writes light novels. It's kind of similar, right? He's probably like, hey, like, being a fake, like a phony person, that's not good. But also me, who sits in my room all day and writes, that wasn't good for me either. So where's the in-between? And people giving Nadeko advice to find an in-between is really powerful, I think. I think that's really good. This also relates to later in the scene where they're like, okay, we're both kind of talking about Araragi without talking about him. That's what we're getting at, right? So I'm pretty sure this episode we're going to meet Araragi. That would make sense to me. Based on, hey, we're kind of alluding to him, but we didn't really talk about him. We were both kind of doing that. Yeah, so we're going to go see Araragi, I think. That's what that means as well. I do like the kind of inverse of this for Sodachi. What does this mean for Sodachi as well? And Araragi to a further extent, right? It means that Araragi's very dense, and we knew that. He tends to forget things. He tends to push things further down when he realizes that were bad. And then Augie helps him drag that stuff back up. That's kind of their dynamic. And Sodachi, it means that she's somewhat learnt from the experience. Like, what I was doing back in the day, trying to be kind of subtle and so forth, trying to infer things rather than just asking for help, trying to get somebody to save me instead of saving myself in that way, was not the best route to go, right? And in the end, I'm still left here, the same place I was before. I'm saying has made tangible change since that point, but still she feels like she's back to square one. So again, Sodachi clearly has content from here. I don't want to go too far into it, but this is definitely something I should have talked about last week. Just connecting all the dots to the old stuff and the new stuff, right? And again, through that perspective, connecting to what I think the parents actually want for Nadeko out of this, and Sodachi being the perfect character to say that. Pretty cool. Pretty cool. Either way, next comment here from Razleth. TLDR, just call it Off and Monster Season. This was, to me, I think it said Nade Monogatari at some point. It also said Oroka Monogatari at some point. I think it's not going to work much the same as everything else, and for that reason, we're not calling it Gatari whatever in the official marketing, right? We're calling it Off and Monster Season. So, in Off and Monster Season, we have Oroka Monogatari into Waza Monogatari into Nade Monogatari into Musubi Monogatari, right? So, we started here with Tsukihi Undo, which I believe was the third arc of this novel, right? Of Oroka Monogatari. Cool. Then we've skipped a book, and now we're into Nade Monogatari, right? Just because these two kind of follow similar stuff. It makes more sense narratively, right? And apparently Razlith isn't 100% on it, but what they say is this, right? So the titles of the specific Monster Season novels are spoilerish, so we won't post them, but it's looking like that after Waza Monogatari, we're jumping into the first novel of Monster Season, right? Again, hopping to the yet-to-be adapted parts of Oroka Monogatari, and then Musubi Monogatari, and then it's all going to be out of order, right? So at that point, like, I can't even call this just off season, because we're probably going to pop into Monster Season pretty soon, and then that'll get confusing titling-wise, right? The reason for the shuffle is spoilerish, so we're not really going to talk about it, I believe. Again, I don't know, but if they're saying it's spoilerish, it's probably spoilerish. It turns out that the initial arcs of Oroka Monogatari, as well as Waza Monogatari as a whole, is very different from the other arcs in a way that would be really weird to throw somebody into the deep end 6 years after the fact, right? I have to remember that most of the audience isn't me that's watched this relatively recently and has taken notes and is pretty up on everything, right? They're not me. So introducing it in a way that's a little bit more narratively coherent, at least early, is probably preferable, right? Just presenting things, okay, you know, it's like a pool, right? You start in the shallow end and you move into the deep end as we go. Something like that. Just makes it a little bit more, you know, manageable. It's not as unwieldy, you know? So yeah, that's the reason why we're doing what we're doing. And as a result, I shouldn't really pay a ton of attention outside of just curiosity as to what the arcs are named and where they're placed, I guess. Just keep an eye on it. And maybe once we have everything out there, maybe review this stuff and see what the initial novel order would have gotten at and the information reveal there. I think that would have been pretty neat. But yeah, just forget about it. Don't worry. Nisuo-san, he's got ya. Or Shaft, I guess I should say in this case. And yeah, it was absolutely wild that I remembered this random scene from Nisei and the location from way back in the day. I don't know. I didn't remember this, which was crucially important. Or at least didn't put that together. I remembered it, but I didn't put two and two together. But I remembered the random scene in Nisei. Take from that what you will. I think in this random scene in Nisei had a lot of the most wild Araragi fan service moment things with Hachikuji. So maybe that's why I remembered it, because it was scarring to me on a human level. Anyway, I digress. Let's move on to Parnik's comment here. As always, you saw it. It's pretty long. Let's just take this one bit at a time, I guess, and go back through it. I think this is going to become crucially important. So remember what Augie said. These aren't snapshots from an earlier version of her. They're still versions or parts of her personality that exist right now that she has given the form of older versions, right? So keep an eye on it, basically. Keep an eye on what's going on there. Here we talk about flirting Nadeko a little bit. So essentially, she decided to live in the moment a lot more and take out the long term, take out the dream. She doesn't care about that whole mangaka business anymore, right? Augie points out such a mindset won't help you in the long run. Something, Araragi could probably speak to this. You get what I'm getting at there. Flirting Nadeko finds creation and effort embarrassing exercises, and no point in worrying about something like that. Bad. That's not good. And yeah, almost subversive of usual clone or past self type stories. Actually, I'm the missing part. They almost seem fuller than I do at the moment, and I'm just that one missing component. Hence the scene where she feels herself drifting into the page instead of shutting Nadeko into it, and Augie needing to pull her out of that particular situation. Pretty cool. This is getting played upon within the lyrics of the ED as well. I am, as I am now, what's transparent. If the current me is fake and the old me is real, maybe I'm just flimsy and transparent. Maybe I should embrace the old me and become who I used to be. Probably not the right moral, you wouldn't think. Oh, I completely forgot about this. So there's some reflections to, there's a particular scene in Augie Dark where we see Tsukihi visiting Nadeko. Then she gets on the bike and Augie fucking jumps her out of the bushes. There's some weird shit going on there. Because Augie at that point is trying to move on to Tsukihi as the next like thing to corrupt, and then can't corrupt her, and then feels like Augie's gonna fucking die, and then Araragi saves Augie, and it's all well and good. There's some great kind of, parallels there between those two particular scenes, along with the bike riding and the dead or alive stuff and so forth. I think it's quite well done. Very cohesive, of course. As I said last week, Augie development is indeed interesting. Kind of lost that weird, self-destructive punishment edge to everything, right? Where it was always framed as a really bad thing and really, like, severe, what Augie was doing, right? We've taken away that kind of need for Araragi to punish himself and be mean to everybody and being mean to himself through being mean to everybody. You know what I mean? And yeah, they're just kind of fun now. Thank you, Augie, for being a fun person. Now we move on to the Sodachi section. Sodachi is more mature now. I like this parallel, similar to Araragi and Hana Monogatari, an older character coming to help the protagonist of an arc sort some feelings out. Of course, so much of Monogatari's perspective as well. Nadeko would see Sodachi through a more adult lens, being well younger than her. In reality, she may be less, well, whatever reality is only perception, but she may be less mature than that, I guess. If we're in Araragi's POV at some point and we see her, she may change somewhat in character design, just a little bit. I've talked a lot about this already, Sodachi feeling like she's failed to change her personality, but has become an adult through simply aging, as opposed to changing into becoming an adult, I guess, right? She feels like she's back to square one. I continue to disagree. This will be explored further in the future. She doesn't think she's changed a lot. Again, through Nadeko's perspective of seeing her, maybe she has changed a lot. That's what I believe on the subject, I think. I'm starting to think that you guys maybe know something that I don't, because we continue to say that, she's back to square one. She's back to who she used to be. Again, I don't see that at all. Well, not at all. I see it a little bit. But it goes to show that Araragi can't just fix everything with speeches. It has to come from the individual. But at least that situation made her strive to want to change and want to be happy and all these other things, even if it initially turned out to be a failure, right? Oh, this is very smart. So we try to signify that she tried to change herself through a haircut, something that many other characters have done throughout the series. Again, it's almost a cliche. We're playing off of that cliche as well. Again, internal changes manifesting externally. It didn't work for her. Maybe she's not as special as the rest of the other girls, at least in her own head or something like that, right? She may have it somewhat backwards as well, maybe to change some things about herself for those changes internally to externally show off. Cool. Here we frame Sodachi's actions as, those that can't do may teach. It's frustrating and demoralizing for her to be able to identify the issues with other people, as well as even identify the issues with herself, but still not be able to follow through with the change, which I'm sure is pretty relatable to everybody else here as well. But again, reaffirming that she does, is able to perceive like what the change should be and how to be happy and so forth through the example of Nadeko is motivating enough. Again, I kind of talked about this last week as well, enough to go attend afternoon classes. Here we argue as well that Sodachi's character is somewhat of a subversion of the rest of them, right? Or at least some of the storytelling-ish stuff, rote storytelling stuff that's a little bit earlier in the show, regards to Hanakawa here, right? Where we literally kill her oddity, or at least one of them, with a big fuck-off sword, and then it dies. Again, that's underselling Neko Monogatari, I think, but, you get what we're getting at here, I guess. Sodachi doesn't have a big fucking monster to kill with a sword, at least not yet. Where she's going to have to work through it on a personal level, not using the occult and so forth. Now we're moving on to the animation. The Augie Nadeko stuff out of the school was probably the highlight, shouting out one Ryo Shimura, the same scene as Ononoki putting out the match in episode 1, done by him as well. Not confirmed, but probably, we think. This is a continuation as well from a Tori Monogatari, Nadeko's POV arc. Other people are silhouettes, as opposed to actually seeing them and so forth, right? I didn't even pick this up. Apparently there's some flip-floppy stuff between floaty Nadeko drowning and current Nadeko drowning based on the particular circumstances. That being moved on to regular Nadeko after a certain scene, pushing her further in and so forth. Good stuff with water and that stuff this episode, I think, or that episode. And I thought this was a great point as well. There are a ton of familiar shots and locations in this episode. It's supposed to put you in Nadeko's shoes, but also it's a great reintroduction to Monogatari, right? The audience hasn't seen the show in 6 years, right? Haven't seen some of these locations in like longer. So it's like somebody coming out of a shell and re-experiencing the same world again, right? The same way Nadeko is. The audience is put in the position of the protagonist in a really cool way in that regard. I think it's awesome. Yeah, like, hey, she's seeing all these locations again after a long time. Now we are too. How cool. This last random edition is a little insert or excerpt from Nisiwa Sin's interview where we ask, hey, are you going to continue the series? And he basically says, I'll continue until I'm fucking dead. So, sure, there's going to be more Monogatari. That's awesome. Again, it's interesting that, okay, I'm happy enough to die after making Baki Monogatari, right? But I didn't die. I continue to live. I thought it was the peak of my work. Maybe I put these feelings into subsequent works. And hey, these themes are continuing to rear their ugly heads till today, right? The story will continue just like everybody else's life will continue. You know, that kind of vibe to it. And yeah, that was a lot of yap, but I found it interesting, I think. There was a few things to jump off of. Let me get up those patrons. That's probably a good start here. Or good continuation, I guess I should say. So as always, you can be that 1 week ahead on Patreon. I'm going to endeavor to do 2 next week, I think. Endeavor to do so, we'll see. So yeah, if you wanted to finish up the arc, because I believe 5 and 6 next week finishes the arc. That's the reason why I'm wanting to do it. So yeah, if you wanted to see that, world's your oyster. You can do that by paying me $6. Many people have done this, up to and including Annie Gregg, Mickey Babbers, Trails++, Anders Harlan, Backslash, Bobbin, Turbo Ribby, Domobot, Ed, Fancy Question Mark, Flo Nightingale, Fried Rice, Fruit, Gloriana Tenebrae, Glyke, Gus N, Heath, Hex, Ika, Yako Yavanen, Joran, Kelvin, Kimskell, Clem, Nosta, Lou, Mish, Mistake El Chen, Nailu, Nick, Parnick, Pencil Sharp 333, Ronlad BNK, Saint Lily, Sal, Sam1373, Skeleton, Without a Net, Zan Echo, Yuna Meme, Zach, Binchy, Hans Peter, Marsh, Voodoo Chili, Aidan O'Brien, Sinarin, and Funny Fat Guy. Thank you for all the money and so forth. I enjoy money and I enjoy Patreon. I don't know what I'm saying. This week, let's move on from here. We're implied that Nadeko is going to start a conversation with, if not Araragi, then a member of the Araragi family. And yeah, it's just predicated on Lumi Nadeko, I think we're calling her, not going to a location, kind of triangulating that point, and that being wherever we're going this episode. If she doesn't want to confront it, again, reflected by her bangs and so forth, right? Hiding her intent, then it's probably the place to go. It's probably where the current version of me, remember, right? The current version would want to go, right? Again, feeding off of these current versions and what they may think, because again, they're literally me. Either way, let's jump in. Discord, if you wanted to talk to me about the show some more, subscribe, like the video, Patreon. Let's jump in here. Let's go. Episode 4 of Off and Monster Season. Radio chat room, I am feeling blue. Because we have episode 4 of Off and Monster Season up there ready to go, and it's very, very blue. 25 minutes and 5 seconds on this one, so sync up accordingly with your own copy, of course. I'm using the MTBB subs, so again, if you want that, you can use that. If not, picture-in-picture version in the description below as well. I'm recording. Yeah, let's give it a 3, 2, 1. Radio, 3, 2, 1, go. Yeah. Araragi household. Okay, so not Araragi. Or maybe Araragi, we'll say. Is there holes in the door? What the fuck? Okay, probably Tsukihi. Tsukihi the only one home. In many forms, yeah. Oh, no, she's followed Meek Nadeko here? That makes no sense, though. Does it not? Cute. Yeah, I'm confused. Are we following Meek Nadeko? No, that doesn't make any sense, because she didn't have any fucking shoes on. Unless Lumi Nadeko and Meek Nadeko are different people? which doesn't make any sense. I'm thoroughly confused. Also, the room's different now. We know that it's different. It won't be Aragi's room. Is that Tsukihi's room? Freaking out early. It turns out you think you know everything and then you know nothing at all. I also forgot to look at the timeline. I'm a failure. I can't believe that. But much like life, this video will continue. And I just talked over the part I wanted to talk about. The pre-chorus there in this song's really good. Oh, I didn't see a spoiler, but I kind of saw a spoiler. I saw more animation of Nadeko in that outfit on TikTok before subsequently blocking everything. So she dons that outfit at some point. Okay, now you're here. Wrathful Nadeko. Sup? Great. Sorry. It's almost exaggerated, right? Forced into slave labor. Wants to assassinate you. Oh, so it's like a setup, right? I don't believe you. Somebody help. I need a hero. Whose shoes then? Okay, so she's like super powered. That's good. Good point. Oh yeah, the front door, of course. So what's the chisel for? Is it a manga thing? Oh my god. uh, best action scene of all time. Throwing office chair at fucking myself. Alright. I need a hero again. Oh, that's pretty bad. I kind of need my stomach, innards, everything else. Oh. Saved. Oh, so you... Okay, so she stabbed your stomach, which was the page. Gotcha. Yeah, good plan. Hiding behind the office chair, quick thinking. Yeah. I was thinking that was pretty relevant. This shit's hard. You gotta get up every day and you gotta do it. Whose shoes? Okay, hide the evidence. Looks pretty big to me. Okay. We're making good pace. Borrow some clothes? Sure. Yeah. Okay. You'd have to imagine Tsukihi's clothes, right? Yes. Actually, are we really going to run into no one? It's just the phone. The phone could bring other people, though. Why? What are you doing? Oh! Yeah. Probably the worst person that could have been calling, actually. Now that I think about it. So she just threw. She threw the whole game. The colors there are great. That's fantastic, too. So again, I'm sure I don't need to explain it to anybody. But the implication being that Sengoku was at Araragi's house. And Araragi's girlfriend hearing that. That's also very violent. Oh. Yeah, that's probably a good spot to go for the god. Yeah. I agree. That sounds like a slam dunk, which probably means it's a little bit too easy. Yeah, it's been a while, huh? Oh, hello. Oh, not hello. That is just a foot. What the fuck? Somebody help. Somebody help my good friend Ononoki Yotsugi. Yeah, she's been severed. She's fucking dead. You did kind of walk into the belly of the beast, if I'm gonna be honest. I would have thought so. What? Wait, she didn't know that? Smart. What if you carried my head and let me see? Alright. Sounds like a quest. Let's collect all the body parts. Don't sweat the small stuff. I'd prefer not to. But what did this to you? We must consider. Yeah, like his Monogatari. Oh. Okay, so it's a good counter. Well, of course. That would be the number one assumption. Don't know, we must reconsider Otori Monogatari. Oh, cute. Oh, yeah, sick. Okay. A lot to unpack there. I am made of clay. Just do the old, you know, you'll figure it out. I mean, she is pretty good. Okay. Tag team. Okay. Yeah, so I've put this together as well. Yeah. Well, it's still not. Oh, that looks like fucking blah, blah. March comes in like a lion. Where's this music? Oh, Otori. She was but a pawn in somebody else's game. I think. Hmm. What? What, because she got 2 and you didn't get any? Yeah. Is that live view of Augie? They're just fucking around? Okay. 2v2. Ascend? Oh, 2 gods. Oh, okay, so like mirroring her journey as well. Some kind of con artist. Unsure if that's a good idea. Okay, one's pretty selfish. That one. Yeah, I was thinking more that one. Okay, so they're not here. Probably. Okay, explain. Oh, literally my hand. Still missing a hand. Glued. Okay, tracking device. Clutch. I like her hair. Make me a dirt hand right now. Oh, a snail. Do you get it, snail? Yeah, you guys get it. Yeah, that would make sense. Look at all these spirals. That's good then. It's good that she's not here. Hachikuji's pretty strong. I don't know. Sick. What's that sound effect? Like a tracking device. Warmer and colder and so forth. Sick. Stop spinning. Probably a good idea. Let's just go for a walk then. Hey, protagonist, you need to do protagonist stuff. Bravery. Oh, they're on your side too. Okay. Very, very much a transitional episode, no? And yeah, I mean, just like didn't have the riz of the last couple, I will say. Still good, obviously. It really took a pacing dive once we met up with Ononoki. Not bad, obviously. Obviously, there's still like a ton to talk about there. I'm just confused on a couple of things, really. So, we seemingly are bringing up the fact that there's some kind of mystery around, okay, there's one Nadeko that was topless and one that was just wearing a swimsuit. Was it the same person that pulled down the swimsuit to become bloomers, or is it a different person, or what's going on there? What's the timeline there that's happening? Here's my thing. I just assumed from what they were talking about before they brought it up as a mystery point that that was part of the trap from Wrathful Nadeko, right? Is that she was going to appear in all these places topless. Again, you would believe that's Meek Nadeko and then use that as a trap. And then, again, because they're all the same Nadeko, they would come to the same conclusion, go to the Araragi house, I've laid a trap there, and then I try to fucking kill you. That was my assumption. But apparently we're bringing it up as a little bit more of a point of contention, I guess, which is concerning me. I don't really know what to make of that. Why is the timeline important there? Like, topless Nadeko versus... Is it when they meet up with the God One and became under their control? Is that the timeline that we're trying to get at there? Thoroughly confused. And then the shoes. What was the good with the shoes? Why even show the shoes if the shoes aren't going to be important? Why was the Araragi house abandoned? Why show up to the Araragi house and not talk to any Araragi family members? That makes no sense to me. Same with Senjugahara was fun though. I really liked that. Other than that, not much to take from the episode IMO. But yeah, let's go back through here. We'll write something in the doc, of course. Let's do that. Radio chat room, that was episode 4 of Off and Monster Season, episode 3 of this arc, and it was kind of fine. It was pretty good. I thought the twists and turns in the first half of the episode were better than the second. A lot of it is set up and so forth. There are a few things to talk about, but not as much as last week, which, hey, that's kind of exactly what I wanted. The main thing that I'm confused about, and the reason why I have up this wonderful image of Nadeko's feet, is the shoe situation. Okay, so, Chekhov's gun, right? Why put in this shot all the way back here of the shoes at the door, if I can find it. This shot right here, why put in this shot if it doesn't mean anything? You know what I mean? Why even include this? Unless they're current Nadeko, they're current Nadeko's shoes. I'm so dumb. She put her shoes down because she was uncomfortable about intruding on the location. Okay, I can drop the shoe point. It's fine. Just to confirm, yes, in this fight scene later on, she has no shoes on. Cool. We did it. We did it as a nation, as a as a conglomerate. We solved the mystery that I made for myself. The other mystery. By the way, what's the chronological order? When Meek Nadeko was walking around in nothing but bloomers, and when she was climbing this mountain in a school-issued swimsuit. What's the timeline there? Also, interesting shot. Which was first, which was later? I don't know. I really don't. Whichever was first is quite the perverted one. What do you mean by that? Whichever was first is quite the perverted one. They're all you, and I think we're implying here that it's the same fucking person. No? This is both Meek Nadeko, just at different times. At one point she's wearing bloomers, at one point she's wearing a school swimsuit. And Nadeko here feels like it's quite the important factor. This is almost an Ononoki-esque pose as well. Either way, we drop that there. Clearly that's something that the narrative wants us to think about. Who was first and who was last there in that regard? Okay, so a couple of things. One, initially I thought, hey, this was just part of Wrathful Nadeko's plan. I thought Wrathful Nadeko was the one in the bloomers. She would walk around all these locations in bloomers, triangulating a point of the Araragi house, knowing that current Nadeko, being the same person as she is, would eventually make her way to that location. I'm Wrathful Nadeko. I want to take you out. I want revenge on you asking me to do work, so I'm going to put together this elaborate plan to assassinate you. That's not the case, at least as presented right now. It seems like it's Meek Nadeko at one point was in bloomers and at one point was in a school swimsuit. And I don't know to what effect. Why would you do two different things? Unless Meek Nadeko was being used by other Nadeko at that point first. And then once she wasn't being used anymore, once she'd shown up a sufficient amount of times, was then recruited by God Nadeko and then started to wear the school swimsuit in an effort to, again, that whole, everything there is reflecting Nadeko's snake, right? It's the costuming choices for Nadeko and so forth, right? So you would imagine it's Meek Nadeko both times, who is, again, associated with Nadeko's snake more than anything else. Again, with Flirty Nadeko showing up in Karen B, and Wrathful and God Nadeko showing up in Notori Monogatari. Or, there's a name for it. Nadeko something else. Nadeko Medusa. We did it. Yeah. So it's the same person. So Meek Nadeko in bloomers and swimsuit, same person, different timeline. I would imagine it was topless first into school swimsuit. Or maybe the opposite. Maybe? Or it's the opposite, and then why was she topless? Anyway, whatever. I'm trying to figure things out too early. Let me get up this timeline and we can go through some more recap stuff. Here we go, chat room. Yeah, just overall reviewy stuff for the episode. I just think we're kind of lacking an extra factor, an extra reveal, an extra anything to make this thing go to the next level. It's very transitional. It's very, I need this stuff in play to make the finale make sense. So we can't really blow our load this episode, for lack of a better term. We need to be saving. We're saving it for next week. And yeah, we're just going to continue to edge. We're edging. This is Monogatari edging session, and we're edging ever closer to that finale. And again, as with edging, I think the climax there will be worth this early pain, I feel. Anyway, elaborate metaphors aside, let's review the episode and review the events, just, without all the extra stuff that comes with it, I guess. Nadeko makes her way inside the Araragi household, in which she sees no Araragi family members. Now, this is purposeful. It's because it's a setup. It's a setup by chiseling Wrathful Nadeko, who's in a room waiting for her to fucking assassinate her, right? She picked a time of day when everybody was out, and took advantage of that, right? Obviously doesn't want to be discovered by the Araragi family, doesn't want any of that stuff to go along with it, so the timing there makes a lot of sense. It was a trap, of course. The chisel is an interesting element, again, relating to that whole creative endeavor type thing. You can use that chisel for creative things. No, I'd rather, again, you're asking me to do the creative thing. I'm going to be wrathful against you. I'm going to try to use that chisel for murder as opposed to creative means. Through some quick thinking, Nadeko is able to seal wrathful Nadeko in the page, but not before taking a hit to both her psyche and her clothing. So again, in this scene, I'll talk about it, we make a big cut in the clothes, but the cut was more internal. It was, hey, there is still a current aspect of me that finds all this pretty tedious. I don't want to do any of this. I don't want to, again, put in the creative effort to become a mangaka, right? It's less flirty Nadeko who thought it was embarrassing. It's more wrathful Nadeko who just didn't want to expand the effort. You can't tell me that this is good, that you're liking this currently, right? But again, it's about sometimes you got to do things you don't like. Sometimes. And again, learning that lesson through another version of herself mirrored back at her is pretty creative and fun. Either way, this prompts a wardrobe change as she has a big cut in her kind of clothes there. So this is fun too. It's another tangible way to get Nadeko out of her kind of inside clothes, outside of her like shut-in clothes, which is just kind of sweatpants and it's getting her out of the funk of depression almost, right? Being able to step out into the world, wear an outfit, put on something nice, put on something a little bit more effortful, and proceed forward, right? It's further, again, we were talking about this earlier in the video, it's taking internal feelings and projecting them externally, right? As she takes in these parts of herself, she's becoming more and more whole again, and more comfortable with, again, moving out of this shut-in lifestyle. The awkward phone call in question was also very funny. So after this, she seemed hyper competent early in the episode, right? And then, yeah, Nadeko comes back, right? Who's very awkward and just does the exact wrong thing at the wrong time sometimes and is kind of klutzy and so forth. Awkward phone call. Senju was calling the house for whatever reason, just wanted to talk with somebody. Maybe we'll explore it at a later date. You never know. It's Monogatari after all. Nadeko answers the phone with her own name. So, there's already tension between Nadeko and Senju for good reason. Nadeko's not allowed near Araragi's house, or at least shouldn't be, and Araragi's not allowed near her, or any of them really. She was safe, she was inside, she was just contained, and now she's uncontained, and maybe that'll spiral out to some different stuff through Senju. So again, that's the oddity element, that's the plot element, but then on some level, there's some kind of Nadeko as a romantic rival element to it as well. You were at Araragi's house, and you were answering his phone. What's going on there? Again, and Senju has a little bit of a, I wouldn't quite call it yandere, but she's pretty intense. So maybe it isn't the only person that might stab her today. Let's put it that way. Anyway, maybe with a pen. That would be nostalgic. Either way, she finds Yotsugi up at the shrine. She moves up to the shrine in an attempt to find God Nadeko, because we're putting Meek Nadeko to the side for now. Until she shows up again, I guess. And we go up there, we find Yotsugi, she's been torn to pieces. As we put her back together, she explains how God Nadeko used Mink Nadeko as a little bit of a decoy there, a little bit of a bait, waiting for her to, you go walk around town, and then come back up here and see who we draw in, right? Putting the fishing line out, drawing it back in. Oh, we caught Yotsugi, let's fucking murder her. This now infers that these two are working together, and this has bad ramifications, right? We need to track down God Nadeko with the tracking device we put on her before things occur. One of which could be that she turns Meek Nadeko into a god. I don't know how that quite works, but again, we're kind of mirroring a Tori Monogatari in that way, right? If Meek Nadeko could transition into God Nadeko in the past, who's to say that that couldn't happen in the future as well? Makes sense. Number 2 is that, hey, they may be targeting Hachikuji, right? Because she's the god of this shrine currently. God Nadeko may want to take her place back, may want to take out the current god and supersede her and so forth. So, watch out, Snail Girl. There could be a snake girl coming after you very soon. So, yeah, that's the state of play. As I said, that is setup. We are now setting up things that will occur later. There was some fun cuts, fun pieces of animation, fun pieces of imagery. I liked the first half of the episode, but the second half dragged a little bit. So, again, we'll rewatch here and we'll find all the good stuff that I missed, of course, while I was wondering about shoes and other stuff. I think this is kind of fun. This is the first time I've noticed it. We have like Nadeko like blinking and it like takes a photo, which is she opens the eyes, that kind of click of the camera there as she closes her eyelids. That's the thing I've largely associated with Araragi, so it's interesting that she's doing that now too. Just when we notice something out of the ordinary, we just kind of almost photographic memory vibes. Put that in the memory bank, that's important information. It also indicates to the viewer that it's important information as well, right? There's a couple of fucking holes in the door. As we later discover, this is how wrathful Nadeko got into the house in the first place. She chiseled a hole through the door and then put her hand through and turned the knob. Probably something like that. Why would there be two holes then? And the door doesn't really do that? Maybe she didn't know where the lock was. I don't know. I don't know why she did two holes. Again, I like the characterization of you taking off the shoes now that I've actually realized what's going on. So you took off your own shoes. You didn't notice somebody else's shoes. It feels like you still want to be respectful in the Araragi house and still feel like you don't really belong. You're a little bit meek in coming in here. You may feel awkward seeing, I don't know, Tsukihi or Karen again after all this time. You know? Again, the last time they confirmed talked was a while ago. I know that Tsukihi was keeping tabs, but probably not as much as she used to. The other thing we quickly learn is, okay, if you're the only set of shoes there, it probably indicates to the audience that nobody else is here. Again, the reason I'm bringing up the shoes and that you specifically took them off, wrathful Nadeko didn't give a fuck. She still has her own shoes on, right? So she didn't care about that respect element to it. And also didn't want to leave a clue that she was already there, I guess, as well. Again, wanting to lay the trap. So here's my thing. Thoroughly confusing. You think that Meek Nadeko is in this house right now. The whole point is that she was avoiding this house. And that we were coming here to seek guidance. Right? I thought that was the whole point. That, hey, okay, Meek Nadeko is not going to this point. I am not Meek Nadeko anymore. I'm going to go confront the thing that I'm fearing. Right? In line with a lot of the theming last episode. That was not the case. You thought to find Meek Nadeko here. Meek Nadeko would never go to Araragi's room uninvited, right? Isn't that the whole thing? Meek Nadeko is the same as Nadeko and Nadeko Snake, who ran away at the prospect of even seeing Araragi. And Araragi needed to chase her down more than anything else. Again, they were in the library that one time. She fucking just ran away. Am I stupid? Maybe I'm stupid, I don't know, but that's not the way that I saw this situation going. Either way, you grab onto the piece of paper, and in a very cute way, we hit the say no going into the opening, as you kind of ready yourself to enter the room. Again, opening's still really growing on me. I really like that that one pre-chorus section, of course. Either way, instead of Meek Nadeko, we open the door, we find Wrathful Nadeko, of course. You're supposed to be a slowpoke, damn you. Why are you dodging my critical hit? Almost in a very video gamey sense, kind of an aesthetic that continues throughout a lot of the arc, actually. A lot of video game references, which is kind of neat. But yeah, particular focus on the bangs here. This is clearly Wrathful Nadeko, costuming, bangs, wrathful demeanor, everything else in between. Spitting fire and brimstone she is. Definitely on the wrathful side. Some of these cuts are really nice, kind of from here, that shot there. Just kind of the shot selection here as they transition from one to the other is really good. So from there to there to there is really good. Also, I did this last week as well. Kana Hanazawa, very good. I'm just going to imagine she's doing this voice as well. It doesn't even sound like her. That's how good the voice is. Sounds almost exaggerated as opposed to the kind of outburst in a Tori Monogatari. It definitely, I don't think it sounds all that similar there. Maybe I could go and check. Nah, kind of similar, I would say. Also, yeah, look at that art style difference, huh? Definitely a big difference. Yeah, she's hitting the there, like that angry, kind of exaggerated tone. Yeah, very similar performance. Maybe a tad more exaggerated in today's episode, I would say. But yeah, hey, she's still really good at this. The exaggerated strength here in this scene as well. She fucking kicks the fuck out of this door too. So that kind of carrying through, being an exaggeration for effect back in the day. I know that she didn't literally kick this door like that back in the day. That wouldn't make any sense. But it felt like she did, right? That's the difference. But this time she actually did. She actually put holes in the door. She actually kicked shit. She's actually that powerful now that it's an actual oddity as opposed to what she is right here, right now. I forgot about this whole episode, actually. Like, the first, like, half here being like, oh yeah, that's when we cut the hair, and well, actually here being close to when we cut the hair, actually. Yeah, the scissors going through there, this actually being, like, a pretty important moment. And Tsukihi being responsible, which we've talked about, vortex of chaos and so forth. So yeah, that's pretty neat. As I talked about before, Wrathful Nadeko's main point here is that I don't want to work for you and be your slave, right? That's kind of interesting. I don't want to be a slave to my own creative desires, to another aspect of myself, current Nadeko, right? That wants to be this creative, that wants to put in the time to be a mangaka and so forth, right? Another portion of my psyche, of my ego and so forth, thinks that that's a chore and thinks that I'm being dragged along for the ride as opposed to actually wanting to do it. Again, the subdivision of personality as opposed to the conglomeration, right? Where, again, I don't really think like this. I don't think there's one part of my brain that wants this and one part of my brain that wants this. My brain is just my brain and thinks different things at different times. I really like this visual for what's going on here as well. We see a Nadeko holding a sniper rifle, getting ready to like assassinate current Nadeko, right? Because that's essentially what she's doing here. She's laid a trap perfectly to the point to draw you here and wanting to end you. That way I won't have to do slave labor ever again. Nadeko here tries to look all charitable and stuff by putting both hands out in a very intimidating fashion, which is no good. So yeah, I'm going to kill you and then I'm going to rest, smashing the chisel into the ground, leaving that mark, which may come back later. We seem to focus on it. We're like, that's pretty conspicuous. Well, she says it's inconspicuous because she's lying to herself, but in reality, anybody could see that. Oh yeah, her physical ability born on living with no limitations, right? So again, we've taken down the defenses, we've taken down the barrier, we've taken down the bangs, thus there's no limits on me, thus there's no limits on my strength. In reality here, we're just upping the stakes of the scene. Like, okay, this person's dangerous, and I'm just Nadeko, what the fuck am I supposed to do? As I've mentioned here already, we bring up the use of the chisel which can be used for creative means, but also is used for gouging people's fucking eyes out. Now, this specific chisel, I don't know if it's something to do with the manga creation process. I would imagine that would normally be a little bit more of a razor blade type operation to cut paper and so forth. I can't imagine using a chisel, but again, woodworking and wood carving and that kind of stuff, you would use a chisel, yes. So, hey, this thing that can be used for creativity, I'm spinning it, I'm using it for violent means. I'm trying to lash out against my creative self using a creative element. In this moment here, Wrathful Nadeko also says that she's going to spill your guts out, which gives you the idea to plant the paper later on. At this point, we throw the office chair as a last resort, kind of hiding for a moment, and then trying to fucking catch her in the Pokeball with the piece of paper. If you want to rest, then I'll let you rest. You can rest inside this fucking little piece of paper instead. Oh, look at that fucking ankle pick. Crazy. Get her in the UFC. From here, we put together a small plan in which we place a piece of paper on our midsection. As she goes to stab us with the chisel, she touches the paper, she gets captured in the Pokeball. Fair enough, right? But more important than the actual physical wound that I'm receiving is this line from Wrathful Nadeko, right? This is a current version of Beam, remember? I can't disassociate them from me. This is something that I think sometimes. You don't actually want to put in all this effort, right? If it's too much pain, just stop. Well, it's interesting in contrast to our conversations with Sodachi and the stuff last episode, right? Where it's like, okay, well, if something is painful, if it's giving you stress and trauma and everything else in between, then why don't you just stop doing it? Well, that's defeatist in another way, I think, right? Wanting to prioritize happiness doesn't mean deprioritizing pain. Does that make any sense? Like, the pain is just me working towards my dream. Whatever that dream may be. It couldn't even be like physical effort pain. It could be like pain in a relationship, pain in, and anything else. Whatever I want to attain, whatever my dream is, just stopping because there's a little bit of, difficulty there isn't the same thing as prioritizing happiness. That shouldn't be used as an excuse that I'm trying to be this happy person so I don't do the bad things. That's not life. That's not what life should be, I think. And again, you realizing that you currently think this sometimes shatters that creative version of yourself, the current you, right? At least a little bit. And again, is a larger wound than the physical wound that she would have inflicted upon me. I think that's pretty smart, metaphorically. Pretty good stuff, Monogatari. I like the TV static filter here put over the image as we kind of place the paper when behind this seat, positioning just the paper in the right spot to bait her into attacking me there. Also in the sub, I turned the tables on Miss Unstable is just bars. Who wrote that? You're fire. That's amazing. Really love this visual element here, using a little bit more of that razor blade. Maybe they're the same thing. Maybe that's what she was actually stabbing him with, and that's the association with the manga, right? So we see this cut, the cut that I've been talking about, the thing that actually cut her psyche more than anything else. You don't actually want to put in this effort, right? Same thing with the lines from Flirty Nadeko, right? You know, it's embarrassing to pursue this stuff creatively. I think that. I can't disassociate this part of my personality from myself. Some of me thinks that this manga thing is embarrassing. Some of me doesn't want to put in the effort. But the current me overcomes that kind of stuff and pursues being a master. Pretty smart. Part of that's part of my heart. However, that said, current Nadeko can't be depressed forever. I must move on. Either way, I mustn't forget that I'm also trespassing, so let's take in some evidence. Let's not leave this chisel out and about. There's a mark left on the floor from the chisel. It's so small that you would never notice it until you notice it. That looks fucking huge. That seems like me when I fucking put a hole in my wall when I was like 16. And I thought, oh yeah, that's fine. We can just paper over that. It's not a small hole. You can't hide it, buddy. Your parents are going to find it eventually. So yeah, I would imagine that this is a little bit of a ticking time bomb. Somebody would have noticed this, and then they're going to figure some stuff out. It's in Araragi's room. It may even be Araragi himself. So here's my thing. I thought we implied from Tsukihi, not Tsukihi Phoenix. What was it called? Tsukihi Undo. That Araragi didn't live in his room anymore, that this was now Karen's room. I guess I was just mistaken. That's fine, because this doesn't look like Karen's room, it still very much looks like Araragi's. Now only 2 Nadekos remain, that being Meek Nadeko and God Nadeko, but I need to change a wardrobe before I do any of that, right? To that end, I'm imagining I go into Tsukihi's wardrobe and steal some of her clothes. I put on my fucking sharp hat, which is good. I've seen this character design, that was the spoiler I was talking about in the reaction, so now I'm unspoiled anymore. Very cool. So a couple of things here. One I've already talked to, this element of bringing myself or other people bringing me out of the funk I was in, the shut-in stuff, the wanting to experience the world. A big step of that is wanting to make the effort to put on good clothes in the morning and that kind of stuff, right? Wanting to get out of the pajamas, wanting to get out of the sweatpants and you know, jumper and whatever else, right? And putting on an actual outfit and going out there and actually doing something. This scene is that feeling being materialized. I really like it from that perspective. The other one would be that it's Tsukihi's clothes, right? What is Tsukihi known for? Constantly changing appearance, right? So it's interesting that you're changing your appearance by using her wardrobe as well, maybe taking on some element of Tsukihi in doing so. Something in that maybe too? Maybe. Well, that's another important element. You literally hide your ripped clothes in her closet. What? Yeah, you're leaving evidence everywhere that you were here. You're the least sneaky person ever. More evidence to that point I just made. We see a phone ring. You know no one's here. You know no one's here. Why would you answer the phone? Because the only reason you would answer the phone is, oh shit, the phone may drag someone who's currently here towards the phone, and I'm sneaking around the house while they're currently here. We saw the doorstep. We see that there's no shoes there. No one's home. You just tweak. You absolutely tweak. You absolutely throw. You fumble the bag, and you go and answer the phone. Again, I think it builds up comedically in the scene in quite a fun way. We see a very competent Nadeko setting a trap and then putting on her clothes and looking very official, looking very smug and proud of herself before walking down the stairs and doing the most stupid thing imaginable. You may be growing up, but you haven't fully grown up yet. You still did a very childish thing here. See phone, answer phone. Even if it's not for you, just answer it. It just fills you with anxiety, I guess, like seeing the phone ringing like that and not being able to answer it. And you're so happy answering it. You're so jovial and full of energy until you remember, I shouldn't have fucking done that at all. Yeah, the realization, and then who's on the other end of the phone, of course. It's nice to hear Senjugahara's voice. That's all, really. I've kind of made my spiel already about how Senjugahara and Nadeko have a little bit of tension there, so you know, for both romantic reasons and plot reasons, so maybe keep an eye on it, I don't know. Hey, look, it's Senjugahara. I love Senjugahara. Where's fucking Hanakawa, dude? I want to see her so bad. We'll see Hanakawa in due time, I swear. I really love some of the direction choices right after kind of that ad break there, that transition. So we drop the phone, we like completely pull the phone from the spot on the wall, we make a hole in the ground, we make a Sengoku-sized hole, even a hat-sized hole in the door. It's a visual representation for leaving evidence, right? I thought I was being so slick and leaving no evidence behind. Now I left irrefutable evidence that I was here through Senjukahara. I also leave my mark on the door, reflecting that. Pretty smart. The tension in the scene is raised by... it's not really a photo negative, it's like a heat signature thing, right? Where we color in brighter detail the things that are a little bit more hot in the scene, I guess. It gives a spy movie-esque tension to the scene as well, and makes your escape all the more hilarious. Even leaving the bike behind, that's another piece of evidence there. Oh no, you're just absolutely throwing. But again, you're full of beans, you're full of stress. Another really awesome thing here where I think we're throwing in live action footage with a ton of filters, sped up footage, shaky footage, getting across the stress of leaving such a situation. Again, you could almost call it a near-death experience. Am I alive and okay right now? I don't even know anymore. That was so scary, I'm never answering the phone ever again. Something, she was a shut-in and doesn't want social interaction as well, and that kind of coming out through the scene as well, I think. Yeah, I've recognized so many of these damn silly locations just off to the side. This one in particular, I think I saw in second season somewhere. Yeah, again, we talked about this already, but just all these familiar locations, and Nadeko outside again after a while. It's where we're outside again after a while. We're seeing these locations again after a while. It just really fits for me. Basically predicated on thinking that Meek Nadeko was going to be at the Araragi household and then not finding her, the trail's kind of gone cold, right? Therefore, the only other lead I have next is, okay, think about God Nadeko, she's probably at the shrine. That would make sense to me. That's where I used to hang most of the time. So, as a result, I'm going to make my way up to the shrine and check some things out. Now, this is pretty cute in regards to all the shoe talk that I've done previously, right? This is almost like Ononoki leaving her shoes at the door of the shrine. But again, it takes on a little bit more of a macabre edge here, as we find that it's not a shoe, but instead a leg, a foot. As it turns out, she's in a fucking million pieces. We chopped her up. Nadeko immediately assumes the worst, assumes that she's been murdered. I didn't feel like she was dead, even for but a moment. Because, again, I know that she's already dead. How does the dead thing even die? And yeah, pretty funny scene here with the rest of the episode being a conversation with Yotsugi's severed head. Futurama style. Just a head. Pretty funny. So, like, her hair's out. That's kind of sweet. Her whole character design by the very end, I think, is quite nice. This Yotsugi severed head is particularly talkative for a severed head, which don't generally talk that much. Hey, can you get all my body parts and put them all back together? Also, don't be freaked out by this because this is normal for me. Also, you used to cut up snakes, so don't act like this is too crazy. You used to cut up snakes literally right here. Like a crazy person, right? We describe this as triage. Don't sweat the small stuff. If there's small parts of me that you don't find, that's fine. We can just fix it up later on. Now, I'm sure we talked about this in the past as well. Certain, oddities would have a weakness against the snake, right? Based on the whole blood element and the venom and that kind of thing. That's why the snake was a really good counter for Araragi and Shinobu and so forth, right? Being vampires. I'm sure we talked about that at some point. I'm sure of it. I'm uniquely positioned, right? Being literally a doll, that this isn't really a worry for me like that. The snake's not really my counter, it just got the jump on me, really. So this visual element here is really interesting. We've got the spiral of the snake here. I think once we kind of break out of this funk and realize that this isn't actually what's going on, they become the snail shells a little bit more, right? Again, I'm not up on my Japanese traditional temple stuff, but don't you make, like, fun patterns in the sand and that kind of thing? I think that's a thing, I'm pretty sure. So yeah, using that reflected here is pretty fun. Well, this has a new twinge on it as well, right? The culprit is obviously God Nadeko, as we theorize here. Why do you think such a thing? Why are you doing this? Why do you resort to such violent means? This is way too sinister. Something from the previous two examples, I've learnt that, again, these are current me. These are parts of me right now. They're not previous me's. I still think these things at least somewhat. So, why would I go to the lengths of doing something this sinister is the way we should be viewing this particular part of the conversation. And again, this disappointment on Nadeko's face. I didn't think I was capable of this. As it turns out, deep inside me, there is somebody who is. I really feel like Yotsugi has a bit of a vendetta against Tsukihi here, right? Thinking, again, blaming this for even associating with her. All this chaos being brought here. I wouldn't have been chopped up to bits if I never took on this particular task, right? Took on this job of watching her. So yeah, nothing has gone my way whatsoever since I've met with her. Maybe she's to blame. Or this is a really fun segment, right? So, subversive, one, where you're saying all these really important, impactful, romantic lines, something you would hear in a rom-com manga or something to that effect, right? There is one good thing that came out of my association with Tsukihi. It's that I became friends with you, Sengoku Nadeko. Really, really heartfelt line. And then again, subverting that, Nadeko can't help but think about manga in this moment. Even her own manga, right? Like, oh my god, pets for Nadeko, the Stone-Faced Lover Arc 1. I placed myself on the role and even cast you, Ononoki, as a little bit of the other romantic lead. Which, again, you can read into if you want to. More than anything, it's just kind of funny. It's just good jokes. And, yeah, like, again, I was waiting for something amazing to happen, but just having jokes is pretty good too. Yeah, the shoujo sparkles, the hair flowing. I think we draw you in a little bit more of a masculine light later on as well. Yeah, this one. Right, so if you think I'm a good person, that means you're a good person. And then, yeah, this look here, very shoujo-fied Yotsugi in the back. Stone-Faced Love Arc 2. Oh my god. I would say, again, most of this last segment is fun pieces of comedy. You must squeeze them together real good. Real emphasis on that kind of chew element of it. Yeah, as you see on there on screen. Yeah, the mouth. So now we get into a little bit more of the explaining stuff. I've kind of gone through this a little bit already with kind of Meek Nadeko being used as the bait, being used as the decoy, which then you attack Yotsugi, whoever was dragged in by the fishing line. I do like the intro here, though. Was God Nadeko that strong? She was strong in her own way. I didn't expect her to be cunning. That was her strength. Well, this is a really fun look, too. It almost looks like you're guilty of having to be used in such a ploy. Right? Because the argument would be, okay, why is Meek Nadeko helping God Nadeko? Is it because Meek Nadeko kind of stands for nothing and is easily manipulated and kind of basic? So God Nadeko, being all-powerful, was easily able to manipulate her? Or does it go deeper than that? I don't know. I really like this look, I think. Well, this is a fun visual element, along with the race, which I've already gone through as well. Just showing off topless Nadeko, Lumi Nadeko versus Meek Nadeko here. Like transitioning on the runway there to a different look. Don't tell me she was in a micro bikini. At least it wasn't a micro bikini, it was a school swimsuit instead. And yeah, I fumbled the bag in the moment. I wanted to say Sengatsu, but I kept thinking Sengoku, which is just your name. So again, that's why I said March comes in like a lion. Said the full English title like an absolute boob. But yeah, like that's pretty fun. Not problematic at all, using that as a visual element to accompany the difference between a naughtier swimsuit versus a regular swimsuit. It's funny. I think that's good comedy. That's good gear. Incredibly wholesome. Oh, I must remember the voice acting element too. You definitely play a character, or Hana Kanazawa does, in March Comes In Like a Lion as well. Yeah, okay, that's very fun. Of course, the mentioning of a Tori here, decoy, it was a decoy, it was an Otori Monogatari, connecting to the old stuff there, and of course, that connects in Nadeko's mind that God Nadeko was putting this all together, right? Again, we must consider what decoy meant in Otori Monogatari as well. It was to do mostly with Kuchinawa, right? It was that Kuchinawa never really even existed. He was a decoy god that was corrupting me, that I was using as a justification point for my actions that I was doing. I think that's the idea behind Otori Monogatari, I believe, or at least one of them. So yeah, kind of subverting that here is kind of fun. Another literal god corrupting meek version of me into something else. Something in that, I think. I didn't go into this before, but the irony was that you were using Meek Nadeko, kind of following her around, knowing that, hey, I can take you out in a second. I might as well see if I can use you to draw me closer to somebody else that matters. In reality, she was drawing you, and you were being used. Cool. You didn't think that you would be able to be used by a familiar, but you underestimated the power of Nadeko. Not the first time that you've done that this season. As I mentioned before, we consider the chronological order of these things. It must be an important element to the mystery on some level. Again, I can't quite see how yet, unless Wrathful Nadeko is also involved, or it depends on who was manipulating who first. I don't really know. Now that Yotsugi's explained her side of the story, Nadeko must explain hers, and she has to do it without sounding like she's bragging. Yotsugi, you haven't even caught one, I caught two already, plus I've gone through this life's changing journey and changed clothes and everything. I've had a pretty good old time as opposed to you who got severed and destroyed and stuff. It's very hard for me to make a report to a professional that was utterly defeated to this degree. I feel like I've been kind of disenchanted with Yotsugi as well. I feel like she's not all she cracked up to be. Again, Yotsugi takes offense here. I see that you're kind of humble bragging, acting modest. How despicable. Don't do such a thing. Now, Yotsugi here mentions Orgi, and it's in a tone of like, are you sure about that? Are you sure that's a good idea? Again, a lot of Yotsugi's placement was predicated on Orgi being dangerous, and you must protect Araragi from Orgi, otherwise bad things will happen. But again, I believe after Owari that Orgi's turned over a new leaf, at least somewhat. Like this, Orgi's just playing around now. That's the visual representation here, right? He's just playing on the play equipment. He doesn't give a fuck about anything else. I would like to think that this is a live cam of Orgi. After Orgi says that they're going to go and help with something, just go play on the play equipment. Fuck them. Just lie. Pretty funny. I like this. We also consider if Orgi would have found these two, if Orgi would get cut up as well. Association with Araragi says otherwise, but you never know. It turns into a team battle. Oh, this is pretty fun. 2 and 5, that was the kind of the hand we were dealt. Like 2, 3, 4, 5, the copies. We've taken out 3 and 4. Again, in this chronological progression, 2 and 5 have come together, but we mustn't forget that I am the ace. I am the highest value card here. And also the suiting, I am the hearts versus everybody else who is the spades, right? Yeah. Interesting. I like the suiting as a metaphor there. Putting myself supremely on the other side to these people over here. And then, yeah, Y isn't a card. I don't know if you guys know this about cards. Y, it means nothing. It's just a special card for Yotsugi. Very cool. Bringing full circle on the card metaphor here, we have what could happen if Meek Nadeko hangs around with God Nadeko too much. If she's her familiar, then she may ascend to godhood along with her. Cool. Sounds pretty bad. Again, bringing back the poker element, the card suiting element with the Joker. They're going to exit the game and become something that we can't reckon with, something beyond the rule set. Also, play Balatro. It's really fun. Comment below what you think this card would do in Balatro, what this Joker would do. Nadeko here infers that we could be doing the opposite as well. Okay, if Meek Nadeko can become God Nadeko, well, God Nadeko became me, so we could do that. We could make God Nadeko into something else. Sounds pretty cool. You'd need some kind of con artist to do it. Almost like we're reflecting Koi Monogatari here too. Really, really fun. That's great. So again, hey, you can take away this god. You just need to call it a con artist. Just remember all that Kaiki did for you. This spurs the conversation onward. Hey, we could get Kaiki involved. That sounds pretty cool. Or any of the other specialists, even Gaian. They sound like they would be able to figure this all out, as you're literally building this new character design for Yotsugi as well. Pretty cool. There's 2 reasons why Yotsugi doesn't want us to do that. One is because I'll look like a failure, so more Tsukihi undo stuff. You don't want to be seen as a failure by your bosses. You want to do your job and collect your paycheck and so forth. The other one, of course, being that, hey, if Gaian sees this and thinks that you're too much trouble, she is a balancer after all. She may just fucking murder you. She's good like that. She's done it in the past. She had a big old sword. It was fucking awesome. She literally did it at this location too. That's kind of fun too. Okay, great. Again, more familiarity stuff. We see the shrine walk here, all that kind of stuff. Even the river there. If I can grab it. Right there. This river that we've seen many, many times that looks like a snake. Again, going outside for the first time, refamiliarizing ourselves with the location. Nadeko here initially opts to play the long game. If they're looking for me, why not stay here and wait for them to find us? That way we could prepare. Not quite. If we do that, it increases the chance that you'll become a god. Pretty bad. Also, again, they could be after Hachikuji. We talk about that a little bit later on as well. If they find Hachikuji and become gods instead of her, then it's a moot point. They're now god of the shrine again. Well, if we're going to take the fight to them, how do we know where they are? I planted a tracking device, essentially. I put my hand on them. It'll tell me the general direction of where they are. Oh, that's really fun. It's like the game Snake and kind of the snake following through the streets there. Like there. Really fun. I don't know what this hand with the dirt is about. I guess you do need a hand. Just in general, this is the best view of the character design. I think it's not much else different besides maybe the clothes fitting a little different and the hair being different. But I really like it. It's a really fresh look for you. Again, your hair could have been chopped in whatever thing we just did, because normally you're with the twin tails, right? Normally, which would imply that your hair's a little bit longer. Maybe it got cut off in the process there. It seems like things have changed around here as well in the advent of changing chapters. There's way more snail stuff when we start talking about the god of this shrine, the current god. Yeah, as we see here, the garden is now the snails again, as opposed to the snakes that were there before. Just, again, things change around based on the god that's involved. Bit of coloration stuff here too. Pretty cool. And we continue here with a little bit of golden ratio stuff, which I think I've talked about in the past with regards to this show too. A lot of spirals. Another spiral, lots of spirals. Even spiral in the clouds. Look at it. Look at how far she's come. Our god, everybody. Our deity. So yeah, ideally we would want to collect Hachikuji and protect her from these two before anything else, have her help us in the process, and not let her get jumped by a 2-on-1, right? Cool. That's the ideal thing. We'll see what happens next episode. Also, again, using this pixel art video game aesthetic to explain concepts, which I really like. It seems like you have a little bit of a chip on your shoulder about Hachikuji as well, considering she saved you last time. You don't want to rely on her again, which is kind of funny. Just remember that this is our own mess. Relying on her shouldn't be what we should do in this regard, right? Oh, this is almost harkening back to early Monogatari as well. Just the kanji symbols for various body parts appearing on the body part itself. So that it's a hand and not an eye. I specifically remember this in Bakemonogatari somewhere, I think. Essentially, we explain here that the hand works much like a warmer, colder thing, not an exact location finder, right? I know the general direction she's in, but not where she specifically is. So let's just follow the trail until we find her, I guess. Looks like you're back in action after Nadeko's help here, just with the caveat that we can't use Unlimited Rulebook the way we did in the past. So keep that in mind as we continue here. This is kind of a temporary measure until I find my hand again. So hey, protagonist, I'm without my full form here. I could fall apart at any moment. I've got dirt for a hand. I'm going to need to rely on you somewhat, especially to fool the decoy, because again, it's not like they're going to be walking in tandem and we can just take them out. They're still going to have some tricks up their sleeve. Protagonist, you must be the main character and protagonist out and do something to save the day. Remember, it is your mess after all. And ending the episode on the triumphant final message of, hey, they may be a 2-on-1, but you right now have 3. You've already overcome 2 aspects of yourself. Who's to say that you can't overcome these 2 other aspects at the same time? Using what you've learnt currently already, taking in those lessons and reinforcing them and using that as a strength to go forward. And yeah, Yotsugi taking on that supporting role, giving encouraging words. Nice stuff. Good stuff. You are now worth 3 Nadekos, current Nadeko. Please look up. Please save the day, of course. Yeah, and that's the episode, I guess, because it's kind of just the ED from here. Yeah, I kind of made my peace with the episode. It's more necessity than anything else, I would say, that we need to do it this way. It was still really good. It was obviously produced very well. The first half's really great with Raffle Nadeko. I understand what's going on there a little bit more. I would imagine that the chronology, timeline, topless, swimsuited Nadeko stuff will be solved as we continue the arc. That's my understanding. But yeah, pretty fun episode. Again, transitional. We'll see how this manifests, and the setup here makes it into stuff later on and makes that all the more better. Anyway, I will close out for now. Aim is to do 2 next week. But again, I think episode 7 is out right now, putting, again, some timeline on some things for you guys. So going 5 and 6 next week means I only really have that 1 episode buffer anymore, which is kind of suspect. I digress. We'll see what the reaction is after this video on the Discord and so forth. But thanks for watching this week. Patreon if you want to be that 1 week ahead. Talk to me about the show on Discord and in the YouTube comments and all that kind of stuff. Like the video, subscribe. I'm out of here. Thanks for watching. Ciao. Goodbye. Cheerio. I haven't used that one in a while.